In a culture where half the microphones in the room are chasing algorithms and the other half are chasing checks, Kendrick Lamar just did the one thing nobody in modern rap has the discipline to do anymore. Kendrick Lamar went quiet. Kendrick Lamar disappeared into the workshop, and Kendrick Lamar, according to two of the most trusted leak accounts in the entire industry, is about to walk back through the curtain with a boxing-themed album that is being described by insiders as the loudest reintroduction rap has felt since Jay-Z shook Yankee Stadium and Kendrick Lamar himself flattened the Super Bowl. If you are ready to hear every single detail, the source, the timeline, the features, the manifested Easter eggs, the exact month the album is dropping, and the reason this rollout may be the coldest chess move Kendrick Lamar has ever pulled, sit down, because we are going all the way in, and I promise you, by the time this video is over, you are going to look at every silent month of the last 2 years completely differently. Before we take one more step, hit that like button, tap subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, because this next Kendrick Lamar era is going to move fast, and I need you locked in with me for every reveal. If you have been rocking with this channel, you already know how this works. Now let us get into it. The temperature check on hip-hop right now is honestly embarrassing. Walk into any club, any playlist, any comment section, and it feels like the biggest names in the genre forgot the assignment. The Ice-era rollouts came, spun out, and vanished from cultural memory faster than any Drake project people used to argue about all summer. The Future album that was supposed to reset the throne felt weightless the second the track list hit. The bar for the leading artists in this genre has dipped so low that it is almost insulting to fans who remember what rap felt like when Kendrick Lamar was actively in the ring. And that is the sentence that matters, because Kendrick Lamar being in the ring is exactly what is about to happen. And this time, the ring is not a metaphor. This time, the ring is the entire concept of the album. Here's where we stop guessing and start reading receipts. A source going by the name Source Music, an insider leaker who has been embarrassingly accurate across this entire year of hip-hop news, dropped a line last week that lit the entire underground up. Source Music said Kendrick Lamar is dropping soon. Source Music said the project is boxing-themed, and Source Music said the rollout is already in motion. Now, when a leaker with a track record close to 100% walks up and lays that quote on the table, you do not treat it like a rumor, you treat it like a countdown. And the countdown, according to every domino falling around it, has already started ticking. Then the picture bends even further from there. A second industry account, On Thin Ice, another insider with a documented pattern of nailing releases before the labels announced them, added the second half of the puzzle. On Thin Ice reported that a Kendrick Lamar feature would land before his solo album drops. Not a full song, not a surprise single, a carefully placed feature designed to plant the flag before the main event. And within days of that whisper, we got confirmation. The confirmation did not come from a rumor page, it came from the album credits themselves. Kendrick Lamar is officially featured on DJ Dahi's brand new album, which lands on August 28th. The song is called How to Pray. It is track 3 on the project. It also features the vocalist Amber Mark, whose voice pairs with Kendrick Lamar in a way that already feels engineered for a bigger campaign. Sit with this line for a second, because it matters. DJ Dahi is not a background collaborator in Kendrick Lamar's world. DJ Dahi has been in Kendrick Lamar's inner production circle since the Temp to Pimp a Butterfly era. So the choice to see the return there, on a Dahi project, on a track called How to Pray, on August 28th, is not a coincidence. That is a message written in Kendrick Lamar's usual handwriting. That is Kendrick Lamar telling the culture, without a single interview, that the walkout song is already queued. Now, the moment you zoom in on the boxing concept, everything else on the timeline snaps into focus. Dave Free, Kendrick Lamar's right hand and the creative co-architect of pgLang, has been leaving boxing imagery in social posts and short videos for months. Kendrick Lamar himself has been photographed in taped hands in the corner of a ring, wearing gear that screamed old-school Muhammad Ali. Hit Boy, who has produced entire eras of Kendrick Lamar's cousin Baby Keem's catalog, dropped an animation months ago that showed a boxer walking to the ring. Fans laughed it off. Fans thought it was a Baby Keem tease. It was not a Baby Keem tease. It was a Kendrick Lamar breadcrumb, and the breadcrumb led straight to this. Every single dot that was mocked as a coincidence is now standing in a straight line. Call it what you want. Some of you will say it is a stretch. Some of you will say the pieces are being connected in hindsight. But the receipts are already stacked on the counter, and the receipts pointed one man in taped gloves stepping back through a curtain that has been closed for 2 full years. Here is why the timing matters. Kendrick Lamar spent the last 24 months letting the culture argue about him without him. Kendrick Lamar let entire rollouts get built around his shadow. Kendrick Lamar let his rivals record entire albums that tried to slander him. And Kendrick Lamar let the loyalists in the industry attempt to spin the narrative into a rewrite. And what happened during that silence? The songs that survived from that entire feud cycle were the songs Kendrick Lamar wrote. Not Like Us is still moving crowds. Euphoria is still quoted like scripture. Meet the Grams still lives in the group chats. Meanwhile, the projects that tried to counter Kendrick Lamar came, went, and evaporated. So the boxer is not walking out to prove a point. The boxer is walking out because the crowd has already picked the champion. The boxer is walking out to collect. Stand back from all of it and the sequencing becomes obvious. Feature on August 28th, album shortly after. Insiders and every reasonable read of the industry calendar say the solo Kendrick Lamar album lands somewhere in the September to November window. There is a version of this world where Kendrick Lamar drops in September, echoing the Black Air Force freestyle moment where he broke a silence years ago and made an entire generation of rappers reevaluate what they were doing. There is a version of this world where Kendrick Lamar drops in October because his own GNX lyric famously reminded us that every day is October when the storm is his to control. And there is a version of this world where Kendrick Lamar drops in late November, mirroring the anniversary of GNX itself, walking back through the same door 2 years later with a bigger statement, a scarier concept, and a body of work that redraws the map. Any one of those months is a viable date. All 3 of those months carry Kendrick Lamar's fingerprints. And that reading has never hit harder, because Kendrick Lamar does not release albums the way the rest of the industry does. Kendrick Lamar releases albums with foreshadowing, with mythology, with buried Easter eggs that only make sense after the fact. Remember, the song Squabble Up quietly foreshadowed Baby Keem's Paper Cut project a full year in advance.
Remember, GNX itself buried references to eras that were not yet public. So when the boxer imagery keeps showing up on Dave Free's page, when the ring appears in Hit Boy's clip, when the album drops out of nowhere on a Dahi record called How to Pray, you are not looking at accidents. You are looking at a director laying down set pieces, and Kendrick Lamar has always been the director. And there is one more Easter egg that nobody is talking loud enough about. Kendrick Lamar's cousin, Baby Keem, quietly said in an interview earlier this year that the next Kendrick Lamar rollout would be, quote, the most physical thing rap has seen in a long time. Physical. In taped gloves. In a corner. In a fight. It has been sitting there in plain sight the entire time, and the entire commentary industry missed it. Now, let us talk about the elephant in the arena, because there is no honest way to preview a boxing-themed Kendrick Lamar album without acknowledging what a boxing-themed Kendrick Lamar album actually means. A boxing album is a call-out album by design. A boxing album is Kendrick Lamar taping his hands and walking out with a corner team. A boxing album is Kendrick Lamar telling the entire genre that the shadow boxing phase is over. So the question is not whether names will be swung on. The question is, which names? Drake is the obvious target, and Drake will be swung on. There is no album where Kendrick Lamar walks out in a robe and doesn't finish the sequence he already started. But the whispers around this rollout suggest it is bigger than Drake. There are conversations that Kendrick Lamar is preparing to punch on the podcast ecosystem that spent the entire feud cycle trying to sway public opinion against him. There are conversations that Kendrick Lamar has bars aimed at rappers who tried to slide diss lines into their verses while he was quiet. There are even conversations that Kendrick Lamar is going to swing on the streaming numbers cult itself, the entire modern rap culture of pretending that first-week sales equal artistic legitimacy. If that is even 10% true, this album is not just a return. This album is a purge. And every commentator who tried to reframe the last 2 years is going to be forced to eat those receipts on camera. The picture bends even further from there when you look at Kendrick Lamar's non-musical moves this year. Kendrick Lamar has been operating in the shadow lane, and the shadow lane has been paying dividends. Kendrick Lamar's pgLang company just partnered with the NBA Players Association on a Cannes-debuted short film narrated by Kyrie Irving and featuring Stephen Curry, Jaylen Brown, Jalen Bryn, Karl Anthony Towns, and a full roster of the league's most influential names. That is not a merch drop. That is not a sponsorship deal. That is Kendrick Lamar and Dave Free walking into the boardroom of professional basketball and quietly redesigning how athletes talk to their own fans without a middleman. There is no other artist in modern rap who is being trusted with that kind of cultural key. And that trust did not appear by accident. It was built over years of Kendrick Lamar walking the line he draws in his verses. So when the boxing gloves come off and the album drops, understand what you are actually listening to. You are not just listening to a rap album. You are listening to a piece of the largest independent creative empire any hip-hop artist has ever built. You are listening to an artist who owns his masters, owns his imprint, owns his production house, and now owns a piece of professional basketball's cultural pipeline. There is no argument left in the room. On its own terms, Kendrick Lamar is not competing with rappers. Kendrick Lamar is competing with institutions, and the institutions do not know it yet. And this is where the comparison sharpens into a spear.
Kendrick Lamar is going to be this generation's Jay-Z. Kendrick Lamar is going to be the artist that the next 15 years of rappers, athletes, and creatives study when they want to understand how to build a company without selling the soul that gave them the leverage in the first place. But there is a wrinkle in that comparison worth naming. Kendrick Lamar is chasing the Jay-Z blueprint with the added ambition of a Kanye-style vision. The version of Kanye that used to talk about redistribution and equity before the noise took over. Kendrick Lamar is trying to be the businessman without becoming the mascot. Kendrick Lamar is trying to be the mogul without becoming the mannequin. And by every metric that matters, ownership, control, cultural leverage, artistic reputation, Kendrick Lamar is winning that project in real time. Which is why the boxing album is such a perfect narrative frame. Boxing is not just a sport. Boxing is a metaphor for isolation, discipline, patience, and a very specific kind of violence that only makes sense inside a rope circle. Kendrick Lamar spent 2 years in the isolation part. Kendrick Lamar spent 2 years in the discipline part. Kendrick Lamar spent 2 years in the patience part. Now, according to the leaks, the roadmap, and the Easter eggs, Kendrick Lamar is walking into the rope circle. Kendrick Lamar is stepping under the lights. And every rapper who spent those 2 years talking sideways is about to find out that the boxer was never gone. The boxer was training. The receipts are already stacked on the counter for what this rollout is going to do to the industry. Look at what happened the second Kendrick Lamar made his last cameo. Look at what happened when Kendrick Lamar simply appeared on a Baby Keem posse cut. Look at what happened when Kendrick Lamar dropped a 2-minute freestyle called The Heart Part. The entire genre stopped mid-conversation and turned its head. So imagine what happens when Kendrick Lamar drops a full-length album with a corner team, a taped hands aesthetic, a Dahi-produced runway, and a rumored feature list that industry insiders describe as, quote, the shortest and sharpest guest list Kendrick Lamar has ever assembled. There will be no filler. There will be no obligation collabs. There will be a controlled, curated, cinematic body of work with the emotional weight of a heavyweight title fight and the storytelling density of a Christopher Nolan third act. And it is coming. Not next year, not eventually. It is coming inside the next few weeks. If you have been asleep on this rollout, this is the wake-up call. Now understand something else. If Kendrick Lamar and Jay-Z end up releasing albums inside the same season, hip-hop is entering a moment it has not experienced in over a decade. Jay-Z has been teasing new material with the same coded discipline Kendrick Lamar uses. Jay-Z cut his hair, hit a stadium run in New York, and quietly rebuilt the anticipation around what a Jay-Z verse actually means in this modern climate.
If that release calendar overlaps with Kendrick Lamar's boxing album, the entire modern rap discourse is going to be forced to grow up in a single weekend. There will be no more numbers-first arguments. There will be no more streaming cult worship. There will be verses. There will be storytelling. There will be a level of writing that the last 24 months of hip-hop conversation has been actively starving for. And even if only one of them lands, even if Kendrick Lamar walks out alone with the taped hands and no Jay-Z counterpart, the field is still finished. Because Kendrick Lamar in a boxing album is Kendrick Lamar with a thesis, a stance, and a hit list. Kendrick Lamar in a boxing album is Kendrick Lamar with a title belt to defend and a challenger list to work through.
Kendrick Lamar in a boxing album is Kendrick Lamar closing every argument that has been left hanging in the air since the day he walked away, which is why the smart money in the culture is already positioning. The DJs are already sequencing playlists to accommodate whatever the first single ends up being. The A&Rs at rival labels are already scheduling meetings to figure out how their rosters survive the impact. Every content creator worth listening to is already writing the day one reaction, because everyone who has been paying attention understands that once Kendrick Lamar drops the first frame of the boxing rollout, the industry does not get to control the narrative anymore. Kendrick Lamar controls it. Kendrick Lamar has always controlled it, and Kendrick Lamar is about to remind the entire genre what that actually looks like. So the final read on this is exactly as heavy as it sounds. August 28th delivers the feature. September, October, or November delivers the album. The boxing concept anchors the mythology. The pgLang machine handles the visuals. Dave Free directs the rollout. Dahi engineers the sound floor. And the guest list, whatever it ends up being, is going to be sharper than anything modern rap has assembled in years. This is not a release cycle. This is a title fight. And Kendrick Lamar is the champion, the challenger, the promoter, and the referee all at once. Zoom in one level deeper and this rollout starts to look like something bigger than an album. This rollout starts to look like a philosophy. Kendrick Lamar has been quietly telling everyone who was willing to read between the lines that music is only the loudest note in a much larger composition. The composition is the empire. The composition is the pgLang blueprint. The composition is the boardroom, the studio, the short film, the shoe collaboration, the athlete partnership, and the record all pointing at the same North Star. That is why the boxing frame lands with such weight. Boxing is a solo sport that only works with a team behind it, and every team member has to know their exact role for the fighter to survive the ring. Kendrick Lamar has assembled that team in silence, and the team has been ready for months. Look at the way the leaks have been staggered. Source Music dropped the boxing headline. On Thin Ice dropped the feature before album pattern. The How to Pray credit dropped the concrete date. That is a 3-stage information release that a normal artist would never coordinate. That is the pattern of a rollout where every leak is a controlled explosion, and every controlled explosion is priming the culture for the actual bomb. Kendrick Lamar is not being leaked on. Kendrick Lamar is leaking on the industry, and the industry is calling it a leak because it makes them feel like they still have any control over the narrative. And here is where it gets really interesting. Look at the sound design of How to Pray, previewed by DJ Dahi. Listen to the way the drums sit under the vocal. Listen to the way the negative space around Kendrick Lamar's cadence feels engineered for a bigger world. That is not a one-off feature. That is a sonic teaser. That is Kendrick Lamar giving you the color palette of the album without giving you the album. The bass moves like a walkout theme. The percussion moves like a heart rate. And the Amber Mark vocal moves like a chorus for a fighter praying before a title bout. If the album mirrors that texture, we are getting the most cinematic Kendrick Lamar project since Damn. Now here is the honest final question, and this is the one I want you to sit with. If Kendrick Lamar walks out of this album cycle with a number one record, a cinematic short film, a boxing-anchored narrative arc, an NBA partnership already redefining the sports culture, and a pgLang empire that keeps outgrowing the frame every quarter, is there any argument left that Kendrick Lamar is not the single most important artist of this entire decade? I will let you answer that in the comments, because when you stack the ownership against Drake, the vision against Kanye, the storytelling against Jay-Z, and the cultural leverage against every peer in the field, the math starts to look almost lonely at the top. Kendrick Lamar has been quiet for a reason. Kendrick Lamar has been quiet because Kendrick Lamar was building the ring, the corner team, the walkout music, and the fight card in the same silence that his critics mistook for weakness. Kendrick Lamar has been quiet because Kendrick Lamar knew the second he stepped back out, the entire conversation would return to him. And the conversation is already returning. So mark the calendar. August 28, feature drop. Then the countdown to the boxing album begins, and every single person who tried to talk crazy during the 2-year silence will find out that the shadow boxing was a warm-up. The taped hands are for the real deal, and the real deal is walking out under the lights very, very soon. If you rocked with this breakdown, punch that like button so the algorithm swings it into every hip-hop feed that needs to see it, and drop a comment with the month you think Kendrick Lamar walks out. September, October, or November. Subscribe if you were new, hit the bell for every leak that lands next, and stay locked, because the second the first frame of this rollout goes public, we are back here breaking it down line by line. The champion is stepping into the ring, and the culture is finally ready for it.